The issue of wage determination has been an age-old problem, as bargaining between labor and authorities usually take a tough process that often results in taking an average wage consideration, which most times does not reflect the economic realities.
They don't get shame at all.
It's no different in Nigeria, as the issue of minimum wage tussle between government and labor continues to linger. Let's take a trip back to the 70s. During the oil boom era, as the Arab-Israeli War of October 1973 rose crude oil prices fourfold within 5 months. From an average price of $3 per barrel in 1973, it was going for $12 by December 1974. At the time, public sector minimum wage was 18 naira in 1970, equivalent to $25. As the government's revenue increased, the government's scope and scale also grew. In 1972, the military government established the Udoji Public Service Review Commission to scrutinize the arrangement, framework, and administration of the public service.
It seems that Chief Udoji, and through the subsequent actions of the federal government in approving his recommendations, they hadn't learned from history, because the history was that anytime you had these sort of pay rises given to civil servants, there was always a backlash from the public, from the private sector. And that happened in 1971, and it's happened before that in the colonial era.
After the Udoji award era to a more recent time, it was a long journey to 18,000 naira minimum wage, with the Senate passed into law in 2011. From then, the Buhari administration also moved to increase the minimum wage from 18,000 naira to 30,000 naira in 2019, equivalent to $193 at an exchange rate of 155 naira to the dollar. Headline inflation at the time was at 11.37% and food inflation at 13.7%. In the past 10 years, the naira has seen its value eroded as oil proceeds dwindle, which has led the Central Bank of Nigeria to intervene in the FX market in defense of the naira. In 2014, the naira was trading at the official window at 157 naira to the dollar and 171 naira at the parallel market. Headline inflation was at 8% and food inflation at 9.3% as of January 2014. Fast forward to 2024, the naira is down over 600% in 10 years after major reforms in the FX market, pegging the current minimum wage of 30,000 naira, equivalent to $22, at 1,339 naira to the dollar. Compared to the likes of South Africa and Kenya, Nigeria has the lowest minimum wage in dollar terms. With the double whammy of currency devaluation and sky-high inflation, labor unions have clamored for higher wages for workers, with threats of industrial action after the removal of fuel subsidy.
What will be the minimum wage that will remove hunger? The UN said that the poorest man should be fed on $2 per day. That's the poorest. And if you have a family of 6 people, at $2 per day by 6 is $12. In a month, you have $360, which translates to about 700,000 naira. Is that the minimum wage you are talking of? Is that what will feed you? On feeding alone. I'm not talking on transportation and accommodation.
The Tinubu administration, in a bid to cushion the effect of subsidy removal, announced a 35,000 naira wage award, bringing the total amount to 65,000 naira. Our Washington correspondent, Maria Bird, spoke to the Kaduna State Governor about implementation.
For me, I think it is a work in progress. In Kaduna State in particular, we have a very good relationship between Kaduna State government and Nigeria Labour Congress. Every state has its own peculiarity. The federal government have taken an approach where, as we are speaking, already the federal government is paying 35,000 wage award.
Meanwhile, the president has recently appealed to all 36 governors to make the wage award payment to help workers and also give the economy a chance to absorb wage increases without a corresponding rise in inflation. With inflation rate at 33.2% in March 2024, what would an over 100% wage increase mean for inflation?
Minimum wage has components where it leads to inflation. One is the announcement effect. Once you announce that there's a minimum wage increase, people try to jack up because The second one is that, is it a money illusion effect? Is it that people it's just increase in wages and then prices increase? And three, the arrears effect. The effective date of the minimum wage, when is it going to be? Is it going to be when the negotiation started, or is it going to be now? If there's an arrears effect, that even multiplies and compounds the inflationary impact.
In trying to find the right number when it comes to minimum wage payments, the Tinubu government set up a 37-member tripartite committee comprising of representatives of the federal and state governments, private sector, and organized labor, charged with the responsibility of recommending a new national minimum wage for Nigerian workers. But what amount will be right at this time?
Let us imagine that everybody is being asked to pay 600,000 or 450,000 naira. How can you survive in those circumstances? So I think there's some posturing, there's some negotiation, and generally speaking, at the end of the day, we probably end up closer to what the equivalent of what 30,000 was in dollars in today's market, maybe about 90,000 to 100,000 naira.
Maybe the government should pay at least the lowest minimum wage should be like 500,000 per person. I think it will serve a purpose and to go a long way.
I wish if the government can increase this minimum wage to, let's say, 150. I don't know if it's too much, but this is what I'm just saying. 150, so that the way the currency is increasing, dollar is increasing, the price of things are not even reducing, and it's so sad. So I would like the government to hear the cries of the citizen, most especially me. I'm very hungry.
Negotiations are ongoing on a new national minimum wage for Nigerian workers. But while Nigerians await that, the federal government approved an increase of between 25 to 35% in salaries for civil servants on 6 consolidated salary structures, which include consolidated public service salary structure and others. But with revenues dwindling, debt levels rising, it remains to be seen what the new national minimum wage will be, as federal and state governments and labor have to be on the same page, or at least the same book. Laddie Williams, reporting for Channels Television News.